Do you have an electrician in your family? Well, I do, and that's me. Here I am replacing a panel that I should have never had to replace. Well, that's because it burned up. Before you go and tell me that this panel looks so beautiful because I did the work, you need to know that this panel took more than 1 day. It actually took 2. And meanwhile, this happened. Oh my god, it's a rocket! Well, at least it's going up in the air and not coming down. This is a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket launched on December 28th of 2023. This was the craziest rocket launch I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a bunch of them, because my grandma, this is her house, she lives in Titusville, Florida, and you get a good view every single time they launch one. It seems like almost every time I was down here to visit my grandma and grandpa when I was younger, there was always a launch. But this wasn't the only reason why I came down this time. This time was different. My grandfather's been dead for over a year, and my grandmother's been doing a good job living there by herself. To understand why it's so different would be to have to understand why my grandfather was so great. This is not because he has 4 great-grandchildren. This is because he was just a great man. He served in the military as a communications tech, went on to become a computer engineer, and as engineers do, he did everything himself. The man practically documented his entire life step by step. Well, I figured it's because of the military at least. One time a few years ago, we sat down and went through all the photos he had. Well, I say all the photos, but he had many photos. The amount of photos he had would take days to go through. And we probably went through a quarter of them one night, and I got lost in how many photos there actually was. With most of these photos, he had a story to go with them, and the stories were endless. This is the story of the house that he had built almost getting burnt down. My grandfather, deciding that he was an engineer and he could do it, replaced his 60-gallon natural gas stand-up 60-gallon water heater with an instant 60 amp on-the-wall water heater. He told me he used 2 number 10 gauge and ran them over to the 60 amp breaker in parallel 10 wire. I told him this was very wrong and that he was going to cause a fire. A few months later, the wire burned up inside of the hot water heater. The problem was probably more due to the fact of his connections and having 2 terminations that were only made to go on 1, but nevertheless, it was still wrong. He decided at this point that he was going to fix it. He installed the proper wire, ran it over, reconnected everything, and this was all fine up until last year. Last year, I received a phone call in panic with my aunt and grandma on the other line. The power was out for a couple of items in the house, and there was smoke in the garage, and a small fire broke out in the bottom of the electrical panel. I had them put me on video chat to see the damage, and the damage was pretty significant. The whole bottom part of the bus was burned up. I was very fortunate that the fire did not spread any farther than what it has. I had my uncle come by and install mini twins up top of the panel and move all the breakers up in the panel temporarily to keep my grandma's power on. After so, I have got the time around Christmas to come on down and replace it for her. Now, back to why this panel took 2 days to install. It's very hard to get stuff done when you're with family and loved ones, especially over the holidays. And Home Depot sucks. If you have a loved one that does it themselves, please call an electrician. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe and like.